just came to work, didn't you?
Yes,
Just
sir.
started.
I've been here since 3 o'clock.
Okay, I'm Detective Rodney Black in the Office of Professional Standards. Today is November the 24th,
Yes, sir.
2020. It's approximately 4:26 p.m. Officer Trey Mayberry, is that correct? Trey
Yes, sir.
is here to talk to me about external complaint 2021-2242 made by Jack Miller regarding an incident that happened on October the 4th, I believe. October the 4th at the Walmart on South Bryant. You recall that incident?
Yes, sir.
You've gotten a copy of the complaint
Yes, sir.
that he made. It's been over 48 hours. You read it, you understand everything? Okay. Before I talk to you about it, let me go over your Garrity warning, okay? So I'm going to talk to you about complaint number 2020. This questioning concerns administrative matters related to the official business of the San Angelo Police Department. I am not questioning you for the purpose of instituting a criminal prosecution against you in reference to this internal investigation. During the course of this questioning, even if you do disclose information which indicates you may be guilty of criminal conduct, neither the self-incriminating statements nor the fruits of any self-incriminating statements you make will be used in the criminal legal proceedings. Since this is an administrative matter and any self-incriminating information you may disclose will not be used against you in a court of law, you are required to answer my questions fully and truthfully. If you refuse to answer my questions, this in itself is a violation of the rules of the San Angelo Police Department, and you will be subject to disciplinary action. This Garrity warning is limited in scope and only covers details concerning the current investigation. Incriminating statements indicating possible criminal acts unrelated to this investigation and divulged by you during this investigation may be used during unrelated criminal proceedings. You understand all that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you understand it all, go ahead and indicate right there and put the date and time in your initials. Got any questions about what I read to you?
Yes,
You understand all of it?
Yes, sir.
Just indicate that right there.
This will be no. Yeah. Okay.
And go ahead and sign it and print your name. And put the date over there. Okay. Also, I gotta advise you that not to talk to anybody about this interview, okay? Or
Yes,
this investigation. Unless you got an attorney. Of course, you can talk to an attorney about it, but nobody else, all right?
Yes, sir.
Except the investigators and your attorney.
Okay.
Okay? So let's go back to October the 4th, and let's just start from when you got dispatched and tell me what happened.
So we got dispatched to someone who, a male subject who was possibly intoxicated and had a child with him. So I arrived on scene along with Officer Francis and Officer Weber. We found the vehicle that was listed in the call notes, and it had the back window was supposed to be busted out. and we were given a license plate, so we found it. Officer Weber stayed outside with the vehicle to make sure, see if the male subject came back out, he was there to stop him and talk to him. Myself and Officer Francis went inside to attempt to locate him, and as I'm walking in, I turned left, going towards, I guess, the west side of the building, and Officer Francis went down towards, I guess, like where the frozen foods were. And Officer Francis ended up finding him first, and so he asked me, or he pointed him out to me, and I went ahead and walked over and made contact with him.
Let me stop you right there, Trey. So, you get dispatched to a possible intoxicated person
Yes, sir.
at Walmart.
Right.
With a child.
Right.
Was there anything said about what he was doing?
I don't remember exactly what it said that he was doing. I just remember that he was supposed to be.
If I told you they said he was possibly harassing people,
Oh, okay, yeah. Seemed that he was harassing people.
would that be correct?
Yes, sir.
So possible intoxicated person harassing people with a child.
Right.
Okay. So then y'all find him in the
Yes, sir.
store.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And you make the first contact.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you, was with what you knew, were you making consensual contact or were you there to detain him?
When I first talked to him, it was just consensual contact.
It was just consensual.
Right. Yes, sir. I went up to him, started talking to him, asking him, what's going on, if he was intoxicated. I mean, he was kind of, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess blindsided the fact that we were there, and kind of seemed upset a little bit that we were there. I just asked him if he had been drinking anything, if he had been drinking and driving. He said no, he hadn't.
Did you smell any alcohol?
No, he didn't seem like as if he was intoxicated. Yeah, I didn't smell
No indicators.
nothing whatsoever. Then as we were fixing to break contact with him, Officer Francis was asking for his name. He didn't want to give his name. We're explaining to him why we were wanting it. He didn't want to, and that's about the time Officer Weber came up, and
So let me stop you there again. Officer Francis was, let me back up. So you told me a while ago that it was a consensual contact as far as you were concerned.
Mhm.
So you didn't smell any alcohol or nothing. When Officer Francis asked for his name and kind of demanded it, what were you thinking at that point?
I was just explaining to him I didn't know if he knew something else that I didn't know or not. I was just kind of telling him like, it's not a big deal, just asking for your name.
Did he have to give you his name?
No, sir.
Did you know that at that time?
Yes, sir.
You did know that?
Yeah.
Okay. So you knew that at the time, and then Officer Weber shows up?
Mm-hmm.
What happened then?
I remember him saying this guy fell on an ID, and I don't know if he said anything to Francis or not, Officer Francis, about the whole what was going on. I wasn't directly next to him, but I was still pretty close to him. And then Officer Weber starts, telling him, hey, you need to identify yourself. You're gonna be, just kind of went off on him a little bit. And then that's whenever he went in there and went hands-on with him, and then so he had been outside the whole time and walks in, and I didn't know if something else was brought to his attention. He didn't really explain anything to us as we walked in. So he went hands-on with him, and then Officer Francis wasn't, I don't remember, I think he went in front of me and got on him. So they had him.
Stop you again. So when Weber comes in, does Officer Weber ask him for his ID too?
Yes, he told me he needed to ID himself.
And did he ID himself to Officer Weber?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so then Officer Weber, what does he decide then?
At that point, it's whenever he went hands-on with him,
Do you remember if he talked to Officer Francis about what they should do next?
I don't remember.
You don't recall that?
No, sir.
Okay, you just remember Officer Weber, him not outdoing himself to Officer Weber and him going hands-on,
Yes.
and then Officer Francis went hands-on.
Yes. And then that's when I came in behind him, and I'm the one who put the cuffs on him. While they had his arms, I went and put cuffs on him.
So describe to me when they went hands-on, I guess to arrest him.
Mhm.
Did you know what they were arresting him for?
I assumed it was for failure to ID.
Okay.
At that point, I mean, our communication kind of broke down, and we didn't really speak to each other before we did anything.
Did you think that was a good arrest at the time?
At the time, I really wasn't sure as to what. I didn't know.
Well, you said a while ago that he wasn't, if he's being detained. Well, it was a consensual contact as far as you were concerned,
Right.
right?
Because he didn't seem intoxicated or anything like that to me. So at that point, it was
Do people have to ID themselves on a consensual contact
no,
or a detention?
no, sir.
So Officer Francis was kind of demanding his ID.
I guess it could be kind of. I mean, he asked him. The guy didn't want to give it to him. He just kind of asked 2 more times than I asked.
But you, just so I'm clear, you knew he did not have to give his ID?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then Weber shows up, same thing, he's demanding his ID,
Mhm.
and then they go to arrest him, and you're assuming it was for failed ID.
Yes, sir.
In your mind, did you think, were you questioning?
A little bit, yeah. Because I didn't know exactly what they were going for.
Okay, so they go to arrest him, and you helped arrest him, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, did he resist?
Yes.
He did resist?
Yes.
Tell me how he resisted.
As they were grabbing his arms, he was staying stiff, real stiff, not letting them, I guess, put him in cuffs. I ended up grabbing his arm at one point, and I could feel him trying to pull.
So he stiffened up,
Mhm.
was trying to pull away.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, pretty stout guy.
Yes, sir.
He, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was not wanting to be handcuffed.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So y'all managed to handcuff him.
Yes, sir.
So tell me, once he's handcuffed, what happened?
After he was handcuffed, we just took him back outside and put him in the car.
Okay.
And the supervisor showed up.
Do you recall if the other officers did anything?
I mean, he was up against, when I got the cuffs on him and double locked him, he was up against the,
Cooler?
I don't think it was a cooler yet. I don't know exactly what it was like a stand
Mhm.
there. And then we moved him over to where a cooler was.
Was he
and,
continuing to try and pull away and?
yes, sir. Look, it was not as much the first time, but he was still kind of resisting.
Okay.
Definitely he was.
So they
And
moved
then-
him to the other cooler?
Right, and he got pinned up against that one, and then he finally started calming down after that. But he was still pretty upset.
So he's calmed down, and I guess you and Officer Francis escorted him outside?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what happened out there?
After we got him outside, we just put him in the car, and then a supervisor showed up, and
Who was that?
it was
Sergeant
Sergeant
Holt?
Holt. Yes, sir. And then we advised him. We went through everything with him, and then he advised us to put him in handcuffs
Did he say why?
because we didn't have failure to ID.
Okay, let me ask you a question. When I watched the video, it sounded like you recited the failure to ID
Yes, sir.
law to Sergeant Holt,
Yes,
and
sir.
you weren't reading anything?
No, sir.
That was just coming straight out of your head?
Yes, sir.
Well, so what I heard you were saying, you were quoting the law that you can't be arrested
Right.
for being detained and refusing. So you knew the law.
Right.
Okay. All right. See if there's anything else. So just so I got this correct, when you made contact with the Mr. Miller, it was a consensual contact as far as you were concerned?
Yes, sir. I mean, 'cause he didn't seem intoxicated or anything like that to me. He seemed coherent. So it wasn't anything to me at that point.
So let me ask you this, Trey. How long you been at the police department?
From my date of hire, or since I've been
On the street by yourself?
by myself, about maybe a month and a half, 2 months.
Okay. And Officer Francis has been here years?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it sounds like talking to you, you knew the law, maybe because you just got out of the academy or whatever. It sounded like you knew the law. Were you just being the junior officer? Were you allowing the senior officer to do what he was wanting to do?
Yes, sir. I mean, when after the whole thing, it was I didn't know if they knew something else that I didn't know going on with the investigation, or if they found it, like I was saying, if they had found something different other than what I had known already. But I mean, I was kind of letting them take over it. It wasn't my district. I mean, I don't mind doing anything in anybody else's district. It was Officer Francis' district, so I didn't know what we were going with next or not.
Okay, but it had something to do with you're the junior officer and he's a senior officer, and so you're allowing him to kind of take control.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when they went to arrest him, you assisted because he was resisting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't think I have any other questions, Trey. Do you have anything else to add that maybe I didn't ask you?
Not exactly. No.
So let me ask you this, Trey. Let's say this incident happened tonight, exact same incident with two other senior officers, okay? And they're trying to make a guy identify himself that's, well, if he's consensual contact, of course you can't, but let's say he was being detained and they're telling him, hey, we're gonna arrest you if you don't tell us who you are. What, as an officer, what are you gonna do?
Well, and now with the experience that I have, I don't know. It's not gonna work. They can't do that.
Well, maybe just some advice from an old timer. You know, just take one of them to the side and say, hey, you know, I'm not sure. I don't think we can arrest for them not identifying for, you know, resisting arrest. Then if they continue, you know, it's on them.
Right.
But you know, you've done your duty and tried to tell them out. You know, I don't think you can do that. So,
Yes.
okay. And it doesn't have to just be this law. It could be any law that you don't think they're implementing it right. Well, you don't have anything else?
No. Sir.
All right, it's I got 4:45 p.m. and we're going to conclude our interview.